So you've seen all those people creating the amazing AI images, the ones with the celebrities in crazy situations, or the waifu images that a lot of you seem to be too interested in. Anyway, you've seen these images and you're wondering to yourself, how can I make stuff like this? And can I do it on my potato PC, even with a card as low as 4 gigabytes in VRAM? That means that pretty much any laptop or PC with a dedicated graphics card should be able to do this. And it's all thanks to a model called Shuttle Free Diffusion. It's a Flux model. It's the same family of model that they use in Grok AI. So if you want to be able to create images like that without paying any money, doing it fully for free and running it on your own computer, then this is the video that's going to teach you how to do that. Now, I'm going to warn you up front, it is a big video. We're talking every step of the way and all the things you need to be able to do to create some decent images. So let's look at the contents. First up, we're going to be looking at how to install the UI, the user interface, to be able to use this technology. It's called Stable Diffusion WebUI Forge. I'm going to show you how to install it from scratch. Then we're going to download the actual Shuttle Free Diffusion Flux model, and that's the image generation model that we're going to be using. Then I'm going to show you how to create your first image. And after that, I'm going to show you how to install some of the extensions, they're called, into the WebUI Forge that lets you add even more detail to your images. Then we're going to talk about how to get the best out of this model with prompting. And finally, how to use LoRAs so that you can create images of famous people or art styles or particular locations, all using this really powerful tool called a LoRA. So a lot of stuff to get into here today. I know that it's going to be a long video, but if you could hit that like, subscribe to the channel, I really would appreciate it. These videos do take some time to put together. Let's get started with how to do the very first thing. Installing Stable Diffusion WebUI Forge. So the first thing you're going to want to do is install Stable Diffusion WebUI Forge. Now, normally installing something from the website called github.com is a pain in the butt because you have to have Git installed, Python, and some other stuff that all just looks super complicated, but it's not. Anyway, you don't even have to worry about any of that with Stable Diffusion WebUI Forge because it's all built into a very handy package. So the link is in the description down below, but you go to the GitHub page for this and you'll know you're at the right one because this is by Ilya Savil, who is the creator of a couple of other really important Stable Diffusion apps out there. And all you have to do is scroll down to the instructions. Down here in the instructions section, you'll get a little bit of information about WebUI Forge. Below that is the actual instructions on how to install Forge, and you'll see it's actually very, very super easy. It's a one-click installation package. It will include Git and Python for you, so you don't have to do any of that stuff. Basically, we can just click here to download the package. It will download CUDA 12.1 and PyTorch 2.3.1. That will be good enough for you to get running. So after you've downloaded it, we're going to uncompress it, use update and run, and then that's it. It's going to be up and going. So let's just click here to download that one package. Choose the folder you want to download it to. So I've got an AI folder here. I'm going to just press save. We'll give that a moment to download. And once it's downloaded, you'll see there you've got the file. What you'll probably have to do is double click it, or in my case, you have to right click it and we have to open it 7-zip. And what we want to do is extract files here. It's going to create a folder for it and we'll just press OK. This will take a couple of minutes just to extract. Once that's extracted, all you have to do is go to WebUI Forge folder that you have. And this is as simple as it is. We just press update. This is going to install a load of stuff. This will take probably a good few minutes because this is where it's setting up that environment and downloading some of the things that it needs to run. Now that's done, we just press run. The first time that you do this will take a while. Now, once it's actually done all of that, you'll see it runs through quite a few different bits. It will and should automatically launch into your web browser, and you can see it in the background here. If it doesn't show up in the background and doesn't automatically launch into your browser, then inside of the command prompt, you want to highlight this local URL, Control-C to copy it, and then inside of the bar here, you just want to paste that in and press enter, and it'll load this page. This is all local, it's all happening on your computer, and is not using the internet. It's just using your browser as the interface. So with that all installed, you're going to want to then get the checkpoints or the models to download and use. You're not going to be able to do anything until you've done that. It's just the UI, the actual generative model, which is a type of machine learning algorithm designed to create new images from, or to recreate images. That has to be downloaded separately. And if you're looking to use Flux, you need to download a couple of extra bits as well. Before we download the model checkpoint that we want to use, we need to get these extra bits first. And that's a couple of text encoders and a VA, which is a variable auto encoder. And we get those from Hugging Face. The links will be in the description down below. The first one that we want to download is the clip-L safe tensors file. We go to download. We want to find our WebUI Forge folder. We go into WebUI, into models, and then into the text encoder folder, and we save it here. As you can see, I've already done that. You'll save it there. You'll then also go and download this text encoder, which is the T5XXL FP8 safe tensor file. You'll download that, and again, it's in the WebUI folder, inside of models and text encoder, save it there. And then the last additional file that you'll download is this array, which is called ae.safetensors. You're going to download that one. Again, it's going into WebUI, into the models folder, and this time though, into the VA folder, and you're going to save that there. The checkpoint model that we're going to be using today is called Shuttle Free Diffusion. Now, this model is actually pretty impressive for what it does. It's a version of Flux, which is a Schnell version or a fast version of the model. The level of detail and prompt adherence you can get from it is actually really good compared to the original Schnell model from Black Forest Labs and some of those other checkpoint fine-tunes that people have done on websites like Civitai. And there's some examples of some of the images that are done on here. You can see how it compares here to the other models. Like we're saying, this is the result from Shuttle Free Diffusion, 4 steps, which is really fast, compared to 4 steps with Flux Schnell and Flux Dev, which is 28 steps and takes a lot longer to generate. So really great results from this particular model. If you use it beyond 10 steps, it'll enter refiner mode, so it enhances the image details without altering the composition. And this apparently is through their own special training method that they did this model with. So 4 steps will get you great results, but you can go above 10 steps and it just adds more detail to the image. So to use this model, all we need to do is we need to choose the variant that we want. Now, if you were to take the base model, the one here, you'll see that actually it's pretty large. It's 23.8 gigabytes. If you're trying to create images using a lower end GPU and your graphics card is maybe an older RTX model, 8 gigabytes or maybe only 6 gigabytes, something like that, you're going to want to use a different model type. And if you come here, the recommendation would be to use a GGUF version. These are called quantized models. Basically, they've been reduced in size to work on those lower end GPUs. You may sort of find that the overall image is slightly less detailed than if you were running one of the larger versions of this model, but it's going to be very negligible differences, and you'll be able to at least run it on your PC. So what I would recommend is if you're on a low-end GPU, use the Q4KS model or the 8-bit version, which is the Q8 model, if you're running on something like a 8 gigabyte card, for example. So all you'll do is you click here and then you'll press download. You'll go to the WebUI Forge folder, WebUI models, and even though this is a Flux model, it actually goes in the Stable Diffusion folder. And so you will actually save that here. So I'm going to just click save and let that download. It'll take a couple of minutes. It's 6.88 gigabytes. So it's not a tiny file, but compared to the basic 22 gigabyte version or whatever gigabytes it was, it's pretty slim. With that done, we can get started back in Stable Diffusion WebUI. We're going to go to Checkpoint, click this button to refresh it, and then this will appear in the box. You just click and drop down, select the model Shuttle Free Diffusion. You then need to change the UI so you can download different types of models or base models to use in this app. So there's Stable Diffusion, which is the original generative AI models. Then there's Stable Diffusion XL and Flux. We're going to be using Flux. So we click here and it changes the UI for the Flux model. So we've got that in there. Then what we need to do is go to here where it says VE text encoder. We need to activate these 3 items that we downloaded. So that's the VE, the Clip L text encoder, and the T5XXL text encoder. Make sure that those are in the box. Now, diffusion and load bits, what this is for is if you want to run something called a LoRA on top of the model. A LoRA is a low rank adaptation model. It's a fine tune that allows you to basically create some very specific look or to recreate a specific character. And I will show you how to do that in a moment in this video, but we're going to leave it at automatic for now. You then have swap method, leave this on Q, and swap location, leave this on CPU, especially if you're running on a low-end GPU. Now, the important one you need to be aware of is this here, GPU weights. Now, if you've got a low-end graphics card, you need to reduce this quite a bit. So you want to bring it down. If you're on, say, 4 gigs, you need to bring it below 4,000 megabytes. I'm using an RTX 2070 Super. So this is an 8 gigabyte card. So I run it around 6 gigs on here, and that leaves enough room for everything else to basically operate and still get a decent speed on the generation. If you find that when you are creating your images, you get a warning come up here saying that it's out of memory, reduce this number here. Now, the next important thing here is the prompt. So we put our prompt in here. I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about prompting later, but I'm just going to paste in this prompt that I've already created. So an elegant beauty photograph with soft diffused tones, dramatic shadows, and refined polished finish of a stone 90-year-old Polish woman model wearing dramatic makeup and a high concept haute couture fashion dress and shoes walking down the catwalk. So we're creating a fashion runway image. So we pop our prompt in here. Down here is the information about how we generate it. There are different sampling methods. What we want to do is if you're doing anything so creative or you're just after super fast generations, leave it on Euler. Otherwise, you want to change it to Flux Realistic. Leave schedule type as simple. And sampling steps, here is where you need to change it to 4. And then below that, you've got the ability to change the height and the width of this. It will default the generation to this size. So if you want to make it, so this will be portrait. If you want it to be landscape, you can click this to swap those numbers over. If you do want to try different sizes, I've put a link in the description down below to this post on Reddit, which I think is super useful, that shows you the different aspect ratios and then the pixels that you need to put input there. So you can change it and you will stick to these numbers here. If you're on a low-end GPU, you want to go with 1 megapixel or less. Distill to CFG doesn't make any difference in this particular model. And there's a lot of other options here, but to be honest with you, for now, this is just the important stuff. So all we have to do is just hit generate, and it's going to start to create that image. And if you look at the command prompt, you'll see what it's doing. What I find is that always the first generation is always the slowest because it's loading the model and then it's doing some other stuff there. But once it's done that first generation, subsequent generations do seem to be quicker. So there you go. After a couple of minutes, like I said, the first generation does tend to be a bit slower. But after 3 minutes, 31 seconds, we've got our image. Now, if we zoom into it, it does look good in general, but the face is unfortunately a little bit, skew. This is just a matter of the detail level, but we can, of course, try again, see if we get a better result, or there are some actual integrations into this WebUI that we can add to help enhance faces. So in order to do this next part, we need to go to the Extensions tab, go to Available, and then click Load From. This will load up all of the extensions that are available for WebUI. There's a hell of a lot of them, but we're going to, in here, type and search for ADetailer. And then we're going to install this one. And then the last one to download at this point will be Detail Daemon or Daemon. And this is really useful, so then we can just press install on that one as well. Okay, now that's installed, you go to the Install tab. This is where all the extensions are listed. And you can see there's lots built in, but any extras will have the URL. If you ever want to read details about what that specific extension does, you can click on the link and it will actually take you to the GitHub page for it. And you can get full detail about how it works and how to get using it. What we do need to do is once it's installed, we need to apply and restart the UI. Once it's reloaded, it will pop back up onto the screen for you. And now we can use the new extensions. You'll see that they're here in the panel on the left. You got ADetailer and Detail Daemon. Now, if we click here and pop our prompt in again, we'll go down here to ADetailer. We just press this toggle to see the information. You'll see that there are different versions. You are face, hand, person, and then a couple of variations of it. We're going to stick with face. We don't need to add any other details in, actually. However, if you're doing an image with several people, you may want to change the detection or increase this even. So we need it to be really certain that it's a face before it tries to add any extra detail to it. We have got the catwalk, which means there'll be people in the background. Those faces will probably be blurred because of the depth of field of the image. We don't want the add-on here, ADetailer, to go in and then add super detailed faces on top of blurred background. So we'll put this to 0.65. Then it should only really pick out the face of the model. And then you can go to the In-Painting tab. And this is where you get to change some of these settings. For example, how much the face should be changed by this in-painting process. If you make it higher, the face will change more dramatically from the original image. Leave it at default for now, it should be fine. The other options there, we don't need to go into for this example. Maybe a separate video will be needed for some of these extensions, but let's do this one first, just ADetailer on its own. Let's generate that. Better not forget, we need only 4 steps here, so let's pop that down to 4. And we do want it photorealistic, but let's hit generate and have a look at what we have. Now it's generating the image. You can actually see a blue kind of box here around the face. This is the ADetailer working. It's detected that face that is showing you. And this might take a little bit longer to generate the face. It's generated this image pretty quickly with 4 steps, but it's now going to generate another image just over the face to replace that face with a new one. So that's going to be an additional time on the generation, but it will create a much higher level of quality to the result. And now if I click on it and you look at that, we've got a perfect face. In fact, the image looks pretty damn convincing and decent. Now, the other one that I got you to download that's a really impressive tool is Detail Daemon or Daemon. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. If I keep saying it both ways, I'm sure to get it right. So we're going to click that and we're going to just look at the options. And there's quite a bit of there in terms of options. Because we're using a Flux model, the detail amount we can add can be between 0.1 and actually 1 in total. Now, if we put it to 1, it's going to add a huge amount of detail. We can choose when during the generation it starts to add the detail in. Now, it's often best to have it start a little bit into the generation, because then what happens is that Flux will create the overall composition, then start to inject the detail into the image rather than doing it straight from the beginning, and it might affect the composition of what you get out of it. Okay, and if we look at the result, so we still have that problem with the face not being super great, but I would say that if you look at the fabric and the texture in there, the sort of reflections, it's very, very realistic looking. And, you know, you could use this in combination with ADetailer then. And so then we will get a better face, but without changing everything on here. And we can see how that looks. The good is, look at this image here. Really, really decent quality result. It looks very realistic. The face looks really decent. And we've got lots of detail in the fabrics and in the belt. I feel like this has worked very well. And when you compare it to this image that we didn't use Detail Daemon for, you can see still looks really good, but the lighting and the textures are definitely missing that kind of edge that we got in the previous image. And do you remember that in the previous image, we were running that full detail edition, right? We were adding in as much as we could. You can be much more subtle with it. So I think this is a great tool for getting some really good results out of this model. And if I flick between the two, you can definitely see that the background loses a lot of detail compared to the one using Detail Daemon as well. So we can get some really impressive results there with photos, but also we can do other stuff as well. It doesn't have to be photographs. It can be illustrations, for example, or what you're probably all wondering about, whether you can get a decent anime image of one of your favorite waifus. You dirty lot. I knew that was the question you'd be asking in the comments. So a very simple prompt actually works really well for anime images. In fact, just a prompt like this, a cartoon anime elf girl with long golden hair, wearing a revealing dress, holding a rabbit in her arms. You don't get more waifu than this, do you? So that's the prompt. It didn't take an awful lot of work to do it, and here is the actual result. And I would say that this on its own looks pretty good. Bear in mind that we haven't actually added any detailed prompt about the background, so it's just created a white background for this image. But we can obviously add more detail into the description, and that will get us more actually out of the image as well. The other thing that we can do with this, of course, is that we can actually add and use the Detail Daemon plugin, and we can run it with that. And the result that we can get with this one, you can see a massive difference in the actual quality of the image. So adding that Detail Daemon in there with, you know, a fairly high level of detail injection, we've got some sort of pattern in the background, we've got more shading, more lighting. So the image has actually come out pretty well from that using that plugin. If we just tweak the amount of detail that we inject into the image, you can see that it drastically can change the image as well. And now we've got an anime image, which is much more realistic looking, and, you know, has a lot more lighting and shading. Doesn't look like an actual anime, it more like an actual anime painting. But a great result. And you can see them compared here. The difference is night and day. So that leads us on to the next part of this video, which is the important part, I suppose, is probably the most important part, which is how to prompt your images. It's all very well having it installed, but if you don't know how to prompt properly on here, your images are going to look a bit meh. So let's get into this. Basically, there's a couple of really important things you need to know about Flux. Flux uses two text encoders. Remember, we downloaded those earlier. That's ClipL and T5XXL. They operate in very different ways, and they actually affect the way that you need to prompt your image. So ClipL has a token limit of 77 tokens. Now, this means that you can only really write about 60 words maximum that ClipL will understand. To prompt for this type of encoder, you would actually use comma-separated keywords. For example, cat, comma, relaxing, comma, windowsill, etc. Now, clip-L is actually an encoder that's directly tied to images. This encoder understands what things look like. So when we say cat, it knows what that looks like. When we say windowsill, it knows what that looks like. The other encoder that we actually use is the T5XXL. This encoder has a much larger token limit, 512 tokens, which actually means it could accept around 372 words in total. That means you can write a lot more, so it does actually prefer you to write in a very descriptive sentence. So the example here would be, a cat is relaxing on a windowsill, the sunlight streaming through the window onto its detailed fur. The problem is that T5XXL does not understand what any of these words look like. It understands what they are, but it doesn't know what a cat looks like or a windowsill. So the way that Flux works is that it uses both of these encoders. The T5XXL encoder will understand what the context is for your prompt, and the clip-L will actually understand the keywords in there. Now, I've looked online for an explanation of how these work together properly, but I haven't really actually sort of found a very good explanation, or at least a detailed one. My understanding is the T5XXL model will understand the context of everything and then will help to direct the clip-L onto what keywords are important. So what does that mean for you if you're actually creating a prompt? Well, the general advice out there is you should combine both the keyword prompt and descriptive prompt together in this format. So you'd start off with a list of keywords relevant to the image you want to create, and then you would follow that with an actual verbose descriptive paragraph that explains the context of the image. So you see there at the top, we've got faded, film, desaturated, vignette, vintage, lumography, found footage, woman, brown hair, pretty face, cybernetic arm, cyberpunk city. And then the actual descriptive one says a lumography photo. So you can see how we're tying those keywords into the actual prompt that we're using and the context in which they actually exist. So we do that for the second part of the prompt. My understanding is that basically you could just put in this bottom part of the prompt and actually Flux would do a pretty good job of generating it. However, because of the fact that it interacts with that clip-L, having those keywords on there can help to direct it more to what's important visually. And as I'll tell you in a moment, one of my tips is that if you repeat something, it does emphasize the importance of it. So it doesn't hurt to have those keywords in there anyway. Now, the next part then is the image that created. And as you can see, it's a pretty damn decent image. It's got that kind of grain and it looks very organic, even though it's AI generated. There's a couple of things in this image that are a bit weird and you might spot the difference. I want to, if you can. I'll give you a second to figure out what is wrong with the image, and then I'll point it out. Okay, that's your time up. It's the giant people down on the street below. They really don't scale very well in this image. So look, it's AI, you're going to get some weird stuff in there now and then. And I would just regenerate this, or you know what, it doesn't take 5 seconds to jump into Photoshop and just kind of remove these anyway. But yes, so there's just something that I spotted as I was just about to film the video was these giant people. Or maybe we have giants in cyberpunk future. So here's a couple of additional tips for you with regards to your prompting. First of all, for realistic images, you can use specific keywords at the start of your prompt to help it out. So low quality, faded film, desaturated, grainy, 35mm photo. Some of these keywords, and what you'll find is that the only reason they change your image is actually because you're effectively changing the generation seed of the image by having it in your prompt. Maybe there's a couple there that don't on their own make a difference, but in combination with the T5XXL encoders descriptive part, it probably does help to have it in there. The one that does definitely have a bit of a trick to it is this one here about using IMG, and then this number actually 1020 could be any number, but underscore then .cr2. That actually does have an impact on the images and can help to make them look a bit more realistic. The other thing, and I did mention this earlier, but like I said, repetition does signal importance, so I'll tell you again. Repetition signals importance. Mention something a few times or add more detailed descriptions to that part of the prompt to really emphasize the importance of it, and it will help to direct the generation to put some detail into it or to make it the focus of your image. If you get too much of a blurred background, there's a little trick you can try. It's not always successful, but you can describe the scene first in your prompt and then afterwards describe the subject, but don't put as much detail into the description of the subject. And that can help to make the background the focus of the image. Here's an example of a prompt. And you see there, we've kind of used some of these keywords: faded film, desaturated, another description below. And when we click the button to see the image, I think that that's a pretty damn good image. Actually, looking at it, I think he looks a little bit like Tom Cruise, but there he is in a field, and you can just see this kind of organic quality to the grain, which I think looks really fantastic. I'm not a photographer, and I'm sure some photographers in the comments will be going mad at me saying, "Prompt Geek, that's not film grain. Film grain is organic and looks great." Look, to a layman like me, this looks pretty realistic to me in terms of the quality and aesthetic of the image. You can get some really great images out of this model with the right level of prompting. However, there are some caveats. There's a couple of things that you will need to be aware of with this model. Like I said, Shuttle 3 Diffusion is based on the Flux model, and you are going to unfortunately suffer with Flux face. This is where the model has a tendency to create faces with a certain look, a bum chin as they call it, and duck lips. I think bum chin's probably a bit of a mean way to put it, but yes, a dimple in their chin and very pronounced lips, and it just looks very artificial and not too appealing. So there are a couple of tricks to actually solve that. So we've got the same woman on the right, and just with a tweak to the prompts, we've managed to make her look less Flux face, right? And we've done that by specifying the region she comes from. So I think in this one, I said a Spanish woman with blonde hair, described the facial expression, and also if you can describe them as a blend between celebrities, that can reduce the effect a bit. Or you can use a LoRA, which we will do in a minute after I've shown you a few more examples here of prompts. So you see that, yeah, there are ways to get around it. I will show you those proper ways to do like a LoRA and things like that in a moment. Now, we've got here, for example, another prompt, a low resolution, gritty, high contrast video still, and I'm trying to go for a 1980s aesthetic. And we've described them below what the scene should show. And the result is here. Now you can see that we've reduced that Flux face with her, not 100%, but we've managed to do it. And it does have generally a 1980s aesthetic, though it's not really perfect. Let's say that this prompt has got us about 80% of the way. The LoRAs that you can get out there, and I'll show you them, they can get you that last 20% to the perfect result. Okay, so we've got this here. This is the result of mixing celebrity names and also the prompt with low resolution and 1980s aesthetic. I think it's pretty decent result. Then another thing you can do as well, and another tip for you, is to consider the aspect ratio that you create your images in. That last image was using the standard aspect ratio in landscape. Here, though, I have changed the aspect ratio. I've changed that to 1536 pixels by 640 pixels, and that gives us the 21:9 aspect ratio, or basically cinemascope. You can see there it's changed the kind of composition behind her, it's made it very much more cinematic, and I think actually the image looks a lot better than that previous one. But we can go further to make it look even more, and that's by adding a LoRA, and I would say that this has got us that last 20% of the way. Looks very, very much like a 1980s film. It's very high contrast, looks great. And also you'll notice we've completely removed the Flux face effect. And I'm now going to show you how to use LoRAs. Let's jump back into Stable Diffusion WebUI Forge and get some of these LoRAs going. A LoRA, or low rank adaptation, is basically an add-on for your image generation model. What it does is it's a way to add a character or a style or some form of concept that the base model isn't very good at doing or doesn't have the knowledge of. You would use a LoRA to do this because a LoRA can be trained off of a handful of images, maybe 20 to 30 images, instead of having to create a brand new model from scratch to be able to do it. So there are some examples of what a LoRA might look like. You may have a LoRA that fixes faces. You might have a LoRA that gives an image a 1980s aesthetic to it. You may even have a LoRA that makes your generation look like Donald Trump. There's lots of options when it comes to LoRAs, because you're able to train a LoRA to create any style of image or any subject, and then add it on top of the Flux model that you're using, in this case, the Shuttle 3 Diffusion model. The first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to find a LoRA to use. So I recommend that you use Civitai, and I'm using civitai.green. Civitai Green is the safe for work version of the website. You can go on there and find some LoRAs and models, and there's lots of tutorials, featured images. The website is really good because it's basically a repository for models and LoRAs, as well as images, and you can get ideas here for prompts yourself. There's challenges, there's lots of posts about how to do different things. It's actually a very useful resource for you if you're just getting started with AI image generation. Just as an example, if you go to the featured images, you can have a quick look. It's going to give you the latest images, and you just need to go here and click on the eye, and it will give you the prompt that they use to create it. For the models, you click this button here, Models, and this will give you all of the different models that are out there. What you can do is, if you go to Filters, you can set it so that you only see the LoRAs for Flux 0.1s and Flux 0.1d. So I've done that, and now it will filter just those LoRAs, and here is where you can go to get those LoRAs and then download them. So we're just going to choose a few to look at. Let's go with Verti's Technicolor Movie. I do like these kind of old film look images. They're very cool. So we click that, and we can download this by just clicking on the download button. We want to navigate to our WebUI Forge folder, into WebUI, go to Models, and then into the LoRA folder. And we can save that here, and see I've got a few downloaded already. Now, the ones that I am really going to recommend you download, and I will show you them now very quickly, and the links for them are in the description as well. You really want to download this one, which is Flux Polyhedron Cleft Chin and Bunny Teeth Fix. So this is a really important one to download. It will help fix that Flux face we talked about a minute ago. And also this one, which is super important too, which is the Flux Polyhedron Perfect Skin, Perfect Hands, Perfect Eyes. Download that, put it into the same LoRA folder, and then I'll show you how to use them. Now, while it's here, just quickly take note that in the box of data here, you will see that there are trigger words. So do keep these in mind, because you will want to use these in order to get and trigger the actual LoRA to take effect. So let's say we've downloaded the ones we want to download. We're going to pop back into Stable Diffusion, WebUI, and we've got everything ready to go, but we haven't got a prompt, obviously. But let's just grab a prompt, pop that in there. I've pasted the prompt in. We've got the standard kind of bit at the beginning, raw photograph, faded film, desaturated, all of that goodness. And we've described a mansion with a dining hall and a woman with white hair in it. We'll generate this image to start with without any LoRAs attached to it to see what we get. And actually, it's a pretty damn good result. We're not using the Detail Daemon there or the ADetailer to add into it. So this is just coming straight out of the model. Let's go ahead to add our LoRAs. We've downloaded our LoRAs that we wanted. We've got to make sure that we've got this, which will be set as automatic for you normally. Change that to automatic FP16 LoRA. That will make sure that the LoRAs work. Then what you do is go to this tab here for LoRA, and you'll see you've got these boxes here for each LoRA. Now, the ones that I recommend that we use are the skin one, which is this one, and we just click it, and you'll see it pops up there. And then the one for the chin, which we just click and put there. Now, you'll probably have noticed, actually, that the words perfect eyes and detailed skin also popped up on the page here. If you remember, we do have these trigger words for some of the LoRAs that we want to use. Perfect eyes, detailed skin, skin blemish. Now, what you need to do is you need to copy those and then paste them into your prompt. Or what's much more effective is if you go to the settings icon for the LoRA, you can actually add the prompts in here under activation text. Let's make sure that they are just separated by a comma though, not a new line. You can then save that. And actually we should do the same for this one, which we're going to be using, which is the one for the chin. Let's go grab these keywords as well. Go back in here. Let's go to the settings and paste those into activation text as well and save that. So it's got these keywords, but we do want them to actually go up at the top. So let's cut those and we'll put that with here with the perfect eyes, detailed skin, skin blemishes. And now it's ready to actually go. So we go back to generation. Now we can just press generate. It's going to actually activate those LoRAs and we'll see the result then for this. And we have our result. And I'm pretty happy with that. I think this looks really good. The face is really moved away from that Flux face. It's very different from the rest of them. So I'm pretty happy with that. Remember, we're not using any of the extensions here. We're not using the ADetailer, anything like that to really get some detail in there, extra detail. This is all just using the LoRAs. I feel the overall tone of the image feels a lot more photographic as well. We can have a look at them compared to each other. I mean, actually, the original image, I think I quite like. To be honest with you, I like the contrast, but the face is a little fluxy. If we look at this one, this definitely has got a much more unique face shape to her. And also, I would say that the colors and lighting feel like they're a lot more natural in this. But I'm going to test with Detail Daemon and with ADetailer. Let's give this a go. Here's the result with ADetailer. Let's have a look. And, well, it's actually really decent. We've got a face that doesn't look like Flux face. It has a bit of detail in there. And it doesn't look near enough as sort of rubbery as the normal generations do. So I'm very pleased with that. I think it's actually worked out pretty damn well. Now, there are, of course, some fun LoRAs out there. Let's download the old Donald Trump one. But while that's downloading, actually, while it's downloading, why don't we actually do this quickly? I'll show you how to do it. Let's go to our LoRA. We've got our face fix. So what we can do is go to the chin, polyhedron chin LoRA, click the settings. Now, if we click on replace preview, you'll see it takes your last generation. And as long as you save it, it saves that as the preview. So now we could do that with all of our LoRAs. We'll be able to save an image and we'll know exactly what the LoRA is going to do to the images. So that's a pretty cool little trick. Right, now I think our Donald Trump LoRA should be downloaded. Here we go. So this is the Donald Trump one. So I think what we'll do is we'll leave all the beginning stuff the same. We will keep photography, cinematic lighting in there. We don't need any of the extra things like pointy chin, etc., because this is based off of Donald Trump's actual face. So we should get an actual good image. So let's go Donald Trump. And actually, another tip for you. Apparently, Flux can be case sensitive, apparently. So let's put that in uppercase because it is a name. Donald Trump. And let's go golf course because that makes sense. Need to obviously change this, but we're going to just do something really super simple because it is just a very simple image. I'm going to go Donald Trump playing golf in a rainstorm. Get rid of these LoRAs because you don't need them. And we're going to click our Donald Trump LoRA. Let's double check if we've got any key trigger words. I'm sure Donald Trump is the trigger word. Yeah, Donald Trump. That would be fine. Old man is on there too. And hair. Well, we have to have the hair in there. So let's go back here. Let's stick hair in there as well. Why not? Now let's go back to generation and let's generate an image and see what we get. We don't need to bother with ADetailer for this because this is just for a bit of fun. And we have our image. I mean, it does look like Doldrub. Look, it's got the hair and is raining. He's on a golf course. I guess I wasn't very explicit in my prompt to have him actually playing it. But we've got Doldrub, so you can imagine. So you can imagine that this kind of thing could be a little dangerous, I guess, but also probably a bit of fun. A bit of meme magic can be created with some of these LoRAs, I'm quite sure. Of course, this video has just been basically the best guide I could put together for you in total on how to create AI images that are realistic on a potato PC. I hope that it's done that for you. We've looked at so much today. We've learned how to install Stable Diffusion, WebUI, Forge. We've downloaded our Shuttle free diffusion model. We've set up our extensions, we've learned how to prompt, and we've even used some different LoRAs for a bit of fun with our images. This has been a very comprehensive video, and as you can tell, it took a lot of work. This is a long video and a lot of content in here. So if you do appreciate that, please make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. AI is always changing. There's always new tools, new models, and lots more fun to be had. And if you want to keep up with it, subscribing to me is the best way to do that. As always, I look forward to seeing you all in the next one, Prompt Engineers.